Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 185 of Salvaggio and Cratty, brought to you again here. Wow, I just remixed the intro there for a sec. Um, Back for you again here on a Wednesday, March 20th, 7:03 p.m. It's like I was doing an infomercial or something there.
I thought
We're
we had a
back.
surprise sponsor or something coming our way that you didn't tell me about. I thought we had maybe had some more
Oh
money coming
no.
our way, which would have been cool.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Just that just happened. Um, Patriots, NFL, NHL, Bruins tonight. Focused for the show. Um, Ryan, how are we doing?
Good. Like I said, a little upset. Like again, I thought we maybe had a sponsorship coming our way with the brought to you by, but we'll overcome that. No worries. Not too bad. Can't complain. Baseball started today, which was cool. We're not gonna spend a whole lot of time on that.
Yeah,
Even though there are
nobody
some,
knew it happened.
yeah, that was a little bizarre. Like I mean, baseball's advertising is not the greatest as we know, but it kind of snuck up on you out of nowhere, especially when you come to find out that the Dodgers and Padres will go back to playing spring training games after tomorrow. So that's kind of a weird setup there. And then obviously there's, I don't know if you saw the big news on Shohei Ohtani's interpreter
Did.
stealing all of his money. Apparently, we could maybe spend a second on that, get your thought, because that's kind of a big thing that just broke seemingly out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't really know how much I can add to the story, to be honest. It's just pretty nuts.
Hmm.
Um, Kind of like you don't see this every once in a while. You don't see this very often, I should say.
Hmm.
We've seen, in the NHL, Jack Johnson's family took a lot of money from him.
Thank you. That was
Um,
I was having this conversation with my parents tonight at dinner because I brought that up to my dad. And I'm like, you can't trust your interpreter, I guess. I couldn't remember his name. Like, I know there was a hockey player a while back that had that problem of his parents stealing money from him. So, like, if you can't trust your
yeah,
interpreter, you can't trust your parents. Like, what a
yeah,
shitty situation all around.
yeah. Nothing else I know, but yeah, it's pretty crazy story.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to add, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much I feel like we could add because I think, like I said, it just came out like maybe less than an hour ago, so everyone's still trying to get the details and everything. Um, but I think like the whole premise around it was he was taking money to place on like bets and stuff, which is insane. And I could have sworn, and somebody put this tweet out too, that I thought Shohei's interpreter, like he's known him since he was a child, or like they've been best friends growing up, or I thought that was a report that came out, or like that was known when Ohtani broke into the league. So that just makes it even more crazy if that's true. That like you can't even trust apparently your best friend if that's the case. So what a like I
Oh,
said a crappy situation all around, and you hope they get that figured out. Shohei Ohtani for his sake.
yeah, no doubt. Pretty wild story.
Hmm.
Um, the Patriots, though, they made some moves. They made the Nick Leverett pickup when we were recording last week. Um, Seems like a pretty good depth guard. Maybe get some starts this year. They also signed, I assume, a friend of Okorafor, Chuka Okorafor. They signed other former Steeler Armon Watts, defensive tackle, 1 year, 2.2 million. And KJ Osborne, 1 by 4. Um, KJ Osborne's obviously the most exciting one. Not like Mike Williams exciting would have been, or
Hmm.
like a T Higgins
Keenan
trade,
Allen, yeah.
which I don't think is out of the question yet. But this guy I've talked about on the show. I like KJ Osborne. He the last year and a half, like season and a half, has kind of looked like a guy to me that a little more responsibility somewhere else someday could do well, or if that extra responsibility came in Minnesota, at times it did. Played a little more some games than others. Known in Minnesota circles as a clutch player,
Hmm.
which is nice. Good reliable third down option. I just like him. It's like there's nothing like I'm not going to act like I have this big scouting report on him, but every time I watch him, I'm impressed. And at 1 year and 4 million, I'm excited about the signing. I think it's like I said, not the glamorous Mike Williams at 1 by 15. Um, but it's an
It's
add to your
something.
receiver room,
Yeah.
and you
Yep.
needed something, and we talked about that. I think that might have partially led into the Osborne discussion last week.
Hmm.
Um, you needed to do something. Like this whole report that came out about just like waiting out to the draft couldn't be a thing. But then shortly after we saw other people saying they could look to trade, and maybe they're not done. Like everybody was conflicting, source battle, whatever. Um, they had to do something. They did. I like it. I like the player. I think he could fit well here.
Hmm.
And he's excited to be here, which is like everybody says that, but that's always nice.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about that last week. You want guys that obviously want to come play here, and I feel like that's hard to find these days, with the
Mhm.
situation the Patriots are in. But again, you get a guy in here that, like you said, is not that he was pushed to the side in Minnesota, but again, he wasn't the one, and especially wasn't the two when Addison got there. So a guy that's maybe looking for a chance to reestablish himself a little bit here, which obviously you'd like to see. You want a guy that might play with some fire under him. Um, I'm not going to say he's the best option you have. I don't know if he slots in as maybe your de facto one now, depending on how you look at the depth chart and everything. But he's a better option than I think in I feel like a lot of people's opinion, probably a better option than Juju at this point in his career. I think he's definitely a better option than Devontae Parker would have been because I feel like at this point he was giving you nothing. It's a move you like. Like I'm with you. It's a nice move, but then as you kind of alluded to, we're going to do it in a little bit here. Um, some of these other receiver names come off the board. The Mike Williams, like you said, Keenan Allen gets dealt. It's like, all right, like they get moved for some pretty um cheap options. The Allen trade was what, a fourth round pick. Mike Williams, like you
Yeah.
said, $15 million. You should have been able to give him for a year or two. Like that should have been nothing. So I feel like the Osborne move gets diminished a little bit in that sense. But again, it is something that you can maybe hang your hat on and be a little excited for. Because again, as you said, he is a clutch player. I think I brought it up last week. He was the guy in that big comeback against the Colts a few years back that had the massive game there, whatever it was, 10 plus catches, over 100 yards. So you've seen flashes from this guy before. If he's again de facto one in this offense, the sky could be the limit. Again, I don't want to talk him up too much because again, it's not a flashy name like you said. But it is a solid move here. It's a guy that, like I said, might be looking to prove something here as more of a top option in this offense.
Yeah, it's been this way for a while in the sense like they haven't had a number one, so they have like a committee of twos and threes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so he just fits in that mold. I kind of wonder if at the time like the reports about um them shifting towards the draft, like they weren't seriously considering Osborne,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe his price came down, and then whatever happened, they were like $4 million. We can't pass this up. Like we'd be stupid to.
Mm-hmm.
Like what if he goes in the AFC too? Like what if the Dolphins sign him or something like? You
What if
don't
he was on
want
the
that.
Jets' radar before they ended up
Yeah,
getting Mike Williams? Like that's a possibility too. So
yeah, and the thing with Williams too is you're tying up a lot of money into a guy that has had some serious injuries, so they probably didn't love that.
mhm.
I like Osborne. I think you're almost definitely getting plus level value for what you're paying him, unless it just really doesn't work, which I have a hard time seeing. Um, no, it also an ad like this right now puts a little more pressure on Tyquan Thornton, who's clearly embraced the fact that this is a big year for him, all the stuff about he's the bulk up guy of the offseason, which is nice, but strength doesn't always
Believe it when you
lead.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah, strength doesn't always lead to better production, targets, so
Hmm.
all that stuff. So we'll see. I like the group right now. Obviously, still want them to add a receiver in the first 3 rounds of the draft. I think a lot of people are kind of in the mindset that they're going to add two receivers. If you add one in rounds 2 and 3, and then like 5 and 6, I'd be cool with that. I
Hmm.
like if they ended up with one of the Washington receivers in Polk or McMillan. That'd be really nice. I don't think they're ending up with Romo Dunze.
Probably not
So
now.
no, don't think so unless they were to trade back. Um, but yeah, I like the signing. Armand Watts. I don't know if this is your like linear Lawrence guy replacement, but it's depth at the position that you need.
Hmm.
Christian Barmore can't do it all, so I like that. I imagine this is a position they'll target in the draft as well. For some depth, it's really like who else is at D tackle right now? Like Christian Barmore and Sam Roberts.
Yeah.
Who
Nobody
else? Am I
else that I
missing
could think of.
someone?
Is Farm still there? Is he a defensive tackle or is
Jeremiah
he more of
Farms might
a
still be
yeah?
there. Yeah, yeah, they needed someone there. So this kind of feels like a guy that maybe a little under the radar too. Like he has pretty decent stats. 72 career games, 140 tackles, 8.5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 18 QB hits, 19 hurries, and 39 pressures. Not bad, honestly, for that many games.
Hmm.
Don't know how much he played in Pittsburgh, but that's pretty solid. Maybe they found a little cheap value here. And Nick Leverett, I actually saw some clips after the show last week. A lot of people in the Bucks community who watched him closer than we did, know him as a mauler in the run game. So I like that. So
Hmm.
um, good stuff. Speaking of the offensive line, Trent Brown is a Cincinnati Bengal. They have their offensive line bookended by guys named Brown that are over 6'8" and 340 plus pounds. Will
Pretty
that
solid
work?
choice.
We'll
Yeah. Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Um, a shift for Trent Brown back to right tackle. We saw him at right tackle a little bit last year and a little bit of the year before. Really became a full-time left tackle again this year. Maybe a little bit of right at the beginning of the season. I don't think so though. I didn't see any financials come out yet, but I think it's a good deal for them. They
Mhm.
lose Jonah Williams to the Cardinals. They weren't, felt like the vibe was they weren't going to sign him, so you got to replace him somehow. I don't think this should impact their draft plans. I think if they want to draft a tackle, they should. And I think right now I'll throw out a fit that I love in the draft, Amarius Mims, seen as the prototypical developmental tackle, like project tackle in the first round. Crazy size, crazy frame. Like he's the toolsy guy that you can mold. I like Amarius Mims to them. And I think Trent Brown could be a perfect bridge to him on a 1-year deal because
Mhm.
kind of seems like people aren't like, oh, he's a day one starting tackle. Maybe some people, but the kid is ginormous, has a lot of tools that scouts and football people love. So I'm still looking at this doesn't change Cincinnati being a team in the market for a tackle in the first round for
Mhm.
me. How did you feel about Trent Brown?
I mean,
They had to do it. They had
yeah,
to.
I was
They had
just
to
that
let
was
him
gonna
go.
be my main
And
takeaway is
he
like,
said shots on the way out again.
oh, did he? I didn't even see
Yeah.
that, so it's not a surprise in the slightest. But like, yeah, I mean, it was I feel like a foregone conclusion. Like even
I'll
with the
try to find the
coaching
quote.
change, okay, even with the coaching change, so you're like, all right, this guy, yeah, you give maybe a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because he was pretty banged up at the end of last year. But I mean, there were plenty of times even before that where you just could tell like this guy has just given up halfway through the season. Again, trying to gut it out. You take what you can get with him, but he was a guy I feel like you weren't going to bring back whether Belichick was still here, whether he was gone, obviously, and you move on. The fact that they really haven't, I don't want to say stressed finding a replacement because I feel like this is one of these positions where maybe they'll address it in the draft. I feel like they have to. Even though I did see a report come out the other day that said they maybe see Okafor as a starting left tackle, which like I'm not thrilled about that. Like I would rather find a more stable guy. And again, we'll get into it in a little bit here. Like you had options on the table that you passed on. Primarily Tyron Smith. Like that's a huge whiff if you ask me. Especially when he goes to the Jets. But yeah, the Brown thing, like I'm indifferent to. I really didn't, you know, care if he came back. Did you want to see another year from here, especially with a rookie quarterback? Probably not. So you hope for the Bengals' sake he just doesn't, give up halfway through the season and get Joe Burrow killed because obviously you don't want to see that with a guy that's had his some injury problems in his young career so far.
Yeah. Good luck, Bengals. If he still has these attitude issues. Yeah, I've actually just found something from earlier today. Trent Brown seems excited. He said, I walked in the building this morning and we'll talk about Ted Karras. He was in the hot tub getting ready to work out, blah, 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 talking about Teddy. I imagine who had a hand in recruiting Trent Brown to
Oh,
Cincy.
probably, yeah.
Just being where we came from when people get out, just being where we came from when people get out of there for a release any chance we had.
All right.
That doesn't make sense. So good English
No,
from Trent Brown. So uh, guy's a
but
dick.
the point
Like,
still stands. Yeah, it's like you still just got to throw, like you said, one little jab in there as you're walking out the door, which is not a surprise coming from him at all because we've seen it happen numerous times before.
yeah, I was so ready to move on for so long. I'm glad
Mhm.
it's over.
I will never understand that about the guys that do that though. It's like, man, they gave you a chance when the Raiders cut your ass or traded your ass or whatever it was. Like they gave up on you. The fact that
Yeah,
the
it's
Patriots
not even
came
just the
back and gave you,
Patriots.
yeah, like I don't
What
know,
a
it blows my
douche.
mind. Like he couldn't have been that miserable there. Like they're paying you. Like yeah, the situation sucked, but again, they gave you numerous chances, so I wouldn't be
Yeah.
too salty with it. And again, like just be like a bigger man. We know you're going to a better situation. Like the Bengals are a far superior team than the Patriots right now. Like you don't have to continue to kind of like rub your nose in it, I guess.
What a cool guy, man.
Mhm.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Trent Brown's gone, thank God. Couple guys I noticed in the subtraction section you had here that haven't signed yet that I wanted to get your thoughts on. Zeke, I feel like we kind of know like he's gone. Where he goes, maybe he goes back to Dallas eventually, but
Mhm.
it took a while for him to sign last year. JC Jackson could come back, Adrian Phillips could come back on a cheaper deal. I think Lawrence Guy's gone. Um, Chris Board, that was a Belichick guy. I bet he's gone. Cody
Mhm.
Davis too. Miles Bryant is the one name I feel like could come back still. What do you think? Do you think at
I'm
this point that it's been so long that he's gone or what?
I was gonna say that because when wasn't really paying attention to the guys they haven't re-signed yet or haven't brought back. And I was surprised to see Miles Bryant because I feel like he's always one of those guys. And maybe, like you said, it's a Belichick thing where you clean up that type of, short term, short money deal. Because I feel like every offseason, Bryant was one of the first guys they signed, and you're sitting there going, "What are they doing? Like the guy stinks." Kind of funny that this is the year that we talked about him a little bit in a more positive light. That he actually had a pretty good, couple of games down the stretch here. So that's kind of interesting that maybe he turns it around and they don't have any interest. I'm surprised he hasn't come back yet. Now, maybe they're waiting to see, what the Gilmore situation is, because obviously we've heard that rumor that they may be interested in bringing him back, or I don't know if it was he might be interested in coming back here or vice versa.
Yeah, I think a little bit of both, maybe more
Okay,
so
so
on
maybe
his
they're
side
waiting
than
on
Zeke.
that, and then once that domino falls, they sit there and go, okay, well, we'll bring, I don't want J.C. Jackson back here. I feel like you probably might feel the same way. If it comes down to both of those guys, as much as I don't like the player and have dumped on him before, I would probably rather have Bryant come back here than Jackson. But it is a little surprising that Miles Bryant hasn't, been signed or been re-signed yet. Because again, he did show some glimpses at the end of the season of a little bit of hope.
Even like, even if they're ready to move on from him, which would surprise me a little bit, I do want him back, unless he's like, part of this is because of money. If he's asking for too much, I'm surprised nobody's signed him yet. Like, does nobody else see the moments, the flashes he had, even like 2 seasons ago? Like, teams are definitely signing worse players than Miles
Exactly.
Bryant.
Yeah.
Like, kind of weird, but I wonder what happens with him. I just wanted to,
Yep.
bring that up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm surprised Zeke still hasn't signed. After you saw all the running backs kind of go off the market, you would have thought maybe he'd be a guy that falls. But like you said, maybe Dallas, who I'm still trying to figure out what they're doing at the running back position because I feel like they may not know. Um, you think
They
he'd be a
should
good
just bring
fit there?
Zeke back.
Yeah, he'd be a good fit there. Is
They
it
don't have
Dowdle
money and
and
they clearly don't want to spend it. Like, Zeke is not going to cost a lot. You're not going to run
no,
Rico Dottle and Deuce Vaughn. Like,
no, that would be a
like I
huge
said in the past,
mistake.
like that's a team that's probably going to draft a running back early. Maybe that's just what they're going to do.
Mhm.
But I
But
don't
even in
know.
that case, like, wouldn't you think you'd bring Zeke back just to maybe have as like a mentor type of guy, bring him in on a cheap
I don't
deal,
know.
maybe, end your career where it started, like that type of thing? I'm surprised he hasn't been, because again, he was good last year. I was very surprised with how well Zeke ended up, you know, getting
Yeah, let me
stronger as the year
think.
went on, it seemed like. So a little
Mhm.
surprised that no team is kind of, taking a chance on him yet.
Yeah. Also, a couple notes for anybody who didn't know. Jalen Reagor changes jersey number to 1, took Devontae Parker's number, and it looks like KJ Osborne's my number 2. I love the number 2 for receivers, mainly because Justin Jefferson made it cool at LSU. So I've always thought the number 2 was cool for receivers since. So,
Okay.
um, in other words, KJ Osborne will be his eventual teammate and now former teammate,
Hmm.
Justin Jefferson in New England. So,
There you
um,
go.
there you go. That's
It
how it
works.
works. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry. I don't make the rules. I
I,
just
I can see
enforce
the
them.
dots being connected. I got you.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yep.
Free agency grades or off-season grades. I am giving the Patriots a C plus. I can't quite get there for a B minus because there's a lack of like oomph,
Hmm.
but they're doing a solid job plugging holes that they need to and adding depth where they need to. I also give them credit for getting rid of Devontae Parker, getting rid of some veterans they didn't want anymore. Phillips, like I like Phillips, but they didn't want to pay him the money he
If there was
was
a guy to
essentially just
move
to play
on for,
special
yeah.
teams.
Yep.
If again, that's a guy I could see them bringing back on a different deal, like J.C. Jackson. They got rid of J.C. Jackson. Like Trent Brown's gone. Riley Reef. They didn't say, "Hey, let's run it back with a 35-year-old Riley Reef." Like
Yeah.
they've
Yep.
let guys go. Like they shopped Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't imagine that went very far. Um, maybe something still happens. I doubt it. I like what they're doing. I think Jacoby Brissett, we've talked about it so much, was the perfect guy to bring in a QB. I think Antonio Gibson could be really solid. And I like the fact I would have been cool with a rookie tight end as tight end too, in like the 3rd to 5th round. But Austin Hooper is a nice cheap option next to Hunter Henry. I thought the Hunter Henry deal was fair. I thought the Kendrick Bourne deal was pretty fair. I like Chuka Okorafor and Nick Leverett. I like Armand Watts, despite not knowing much about him. Stats look decent,
Hmm.
cheap money, and I like a coverage linebacker in Taki, a guy that Wolf is familiar with from 2019 with the Browns. So they're plugging holes. Like they're doing what they need to do to like stay above water, I guess. maybe be a little better than last year.
Mhm.
The draft is going to help that.
Draft's
Maybe
gonna
a
determine
trade.
that a lot. Yeah.
But right now, like I'd give them a lower grade if they just sign players that suck, but they don't. Like they're signing solid players. Like they're not gonna throw away all their money right away, like some people seem to expect. Like
Mhm.
people are expecting them to have like 5 million left. Um, they should have less money left. They should be spending a little
Yeah, they
more.
should be
I
doing
will
something.
acknowledge
Yeah.
that. But like they're playing they're just doing smart moves. Like they're not going to fix it in 1 year. They're not going to fix it in a week for free agency. Like it's just not going to happen. Like they're not going to throw around this big money. They've shown that if they don't feel it's right. And there's still guys out there. Like it's really the trade market now. Obviously you lose a guy like Keenan Allen for a fourth to the Bears. That stinks. But Keenan Allen's old. He's had a few injuries here and there, and he's due a lot of money. This year, and yeah, just this year. I believe he's a free agent next summer. They're doing okay. C plus, I think, is right around where you need
It's
to
fair.
be. I
Yeah.
think. I think if you're in the D territory, I think you're being a little harsh.
Mhm.
If people in that territory are probably people that hate certain players they signed to, which to me, I just don't. So
Yeah.
I'm hovering around C plus C territory.
Well, the reason I asked that question and put it in the outline is because obviously we talked, talked them up a decent amount last week for the moves they had made of bringing, their core guys back and guys we wanted to see back, like the Onwenus and the Duggars. The surprises that were the Uches, and Jennings coming back, all solid players. But I was going to ask you, are you feeling
Yeah,
after some of the moves that haven't been made better or worse after last week? Because like I feel like there was again, like we weren't talking them up for the people that missed it. Obviously, like they had gone out and plugged every hole and fixed everything right away like that. But again, you and I both were kind of in agreement. Like you made the moves that you needed to, as you said, you brought in a solid veteran quarterback option in Brissett. But after the moves that have been made this week, and maybe this is where you and I differ a little bit, I just personally feel like there's been a bit of a downtick of like, okay, these are some things
yeah.
that like they're like again glaring holes that you could have filled, like the left tackle thing. Like my grade's a C. I'm right there with you, a little step less than a C plus. But like to me, like some of these guys you missed on, like we knew going you needed a left tackle. We both knew Trent Brown wasn't going to come back. And again, maybe they're going to focus more on that position early on in the draft, which wouldn't be the worst thing. But again, like Tyron Smith doesn't sign for a whole lot. It was what one in like 5 million, if
I
that.
think
I think
6.
yeah, I think it was more in like incentive based stuff as well. Jonah Williams is a guy they've been linked to. I feel like in the past really didn't show any interest in
more
him.
sense.
Like
That made more sense if they weren't going to sign Mike.
but yeah, fair. It's a straight up right
more
tackle.
right
Yeah.
tackle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But still,
One
like,
thing I want to put this out there too.
mhm.
I did forget to mention in my argument the Uche, Jennings and Onwenu signings. I was thinking more of like outside stuff, but
Yeah,
yeah, obviously
gotcha.
those are
Yep.
good too. Want to add that to my argument
Yeah,
so people
it's you
think
don't
I
hate to
didn't
bring
just
those guys
forget,
back.
even though I kind of did. For
But
a
yeah, I
second
mean
there,
that's kind of
just
where
thinking
I'm
about
at. Like
external.
you swing and miss at the left tackle position. And again, Okafor, like I'll wait and see. Like I don't know if he's
Yeah.
a starting caliber tackle.
No,
Again,
he's
I'm with you.
depth.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, there was a report that they potentially see him as a guy that could start. Which like, all right, like I don't know
Yeah.
if I'd be putting all my eggs in that
They're
basket.
just saying that right
But
now because they haven't
true.
drafted anybody.
True. Yeah, like you said it
They
last
have
week.
him
That
as an
some of this
option
stuff
if
could
they
be
need.
smoke and
Yeah.
mirrors.
Mhm.
But like some of the other stuff, like we talked about it, like I'm cool with them not spending a ton of money on Calvin Ridley because we knew they were gonna have to overpay
Yeah,
for
that
him.
deal was crazy.
But exactly that deal was a little insane. You brought up some reasons why maybe not to go after Keenan Allen again, like fourth round pick to help your
Yeah,
rookie quarterback
I
out.
still would have taken the gamble. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing. Like you mentioned, Mike Williams, injury prone, but again, like 15 million for a receiver that you could definitely use help your rookie quarterback come along in the season if Williams stays
And a true
healthy,
X guy.
and a true number one. Yeah, potentially. Like that's a move I feel like
No,
you
X
very
like the
easily could have
slot.
made. What's up?
X like the slot, like slot guy.
Oh yeah, okay, I gotcha. I understand now. It, with the terminology, everything, gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, like those two, I kind of feel like were swings and misses. I don't know if you touched on it. I may have blanked out when you did the Justin Fields move, and we'll maybe get into that a little bit more in the more NFL centric moves. That move I'm kind of waiting to see on because obviously it was a decent amount of people up in arms, like especially when you find out the Patriots were able to get more for Mac Jones than the Bears got for Justin Fields, which is kind of crazy. But him, I'm kind of in wait and see mode. Like if they roll into the season with Brissett and one of the top three guys, they're probably not going to get Caleb Williams. We know that. But May, Daniels, if one of those two guys are there, I'm cool with them not making a move on Fields. But if they trade down and end up with like Penix, who maybe they're not even interested in, because I don't know if you
No,
saw the
they
report.
don't. They
that,
don't.
yeah,
They
they're
seemingly
skipping
do not.
his workout, or I think it's
They
the
were
same
at
time.
Daniels, maybe
Yeah.
not Daniels today, but May and Williams. Williams threw
Mhm.
one ball that was fucking crazy.
Did he?
Yeah.
But yeah, like if they end up with
Um,
like they're not going to, we know probably now with, but like let's just say for the sake of the experiment, like Penix type of player, a JJ McCarthy, and that's your quarterback going into the season, then I would be like, all right, you probably should have made a move for Fields. Maybe you get something out of him, and then you get lucky and roll with that quarterback, or have the rookie quarterback as well, along with Fields. So that one I'm kind of in wait and see mode on. Um, this is kind of contradictory, but obviously there was a report today that the Patriots might explore, a trade for like Ayuk. I saw you mentioned T Higgins, so again, kind of wait and see mode on that. But before that, like that rumor really hadn't come out, so it's like, all right, again, I don't know if I want to put all my eggs in the basket of drafting a guy, seeing if that's the case. So for me, it's been a little bit of a tapering off of what you did last week that was so good to now, like you missed on a couple of these opportunities where it's like you could have really, expedited your rebuild a little bit. I'm not saying like the people that want them to be a 10-win team going into this year, but there were some moves on cheaper deals you would have thought they would have had a chance to make that they didn't, where you're kind of
yeah.
like, all right, like you have money to spend. Again, I'm not one of those people like you said, they're like, oh, you should only have like $2 million left to spend or be close to the cap because you have all this money, but it is a little discouraging to see some of the moves they haven't made, which you're kind of like, all right, like you're maybe plugging some holes with some bandages here and then trying to pass that off. So
Yeah. At this point, like a couple guys or a few guys I like that are left. I like Charles Leno. I think you do need to add a left tackle. Charles Leno Jr., like not the most amazing option, but like serviceable, like bridge left tackle to a guy like you're probably drafting to be your future guy in the second or third round, or first if you trade down. I like Charles Leno Jr. I like Isaiah Simmons, former first rounder of the Cardinals. He's 25. He's still in the market, linebacker like him. And I like Stephon Gilmore as well. Those are three guys I wouldn't mind if they signed all three, to be honest. I'd like some combination of them. The Justin Fields stuff, I've been in the camp of, for the right price, yeah, but I don't want to pay that extension down the road. Um, I think Justin Fields was failed by the organization in part. It's not all on the organization in Chicago.
mhm.
I just think you let a guy like that go to a different team. I don't think you take on that risk when you're trying to rebuild. Um, I'm glad they didn't. I don't want to give him that big money and end
Mhm.
up like potentially like the Giants with Daniel Jones,
It's
who they
fair.
still have.
It is one of those
So
moves where like you look at it and if it works out, you look like an absolute genius. But if it fails, you kind of set yourself even further back. And then, like you said, then you throw
yeah,
maybe a massive contract and that looks bad in a couple of years. Then Daniel Jones is a good comparison there. So kudos to you for that. But it is kind of one of those like you weigh the good and the bad and what one kind of sticks out more to you type of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, while we're on the topic of trades, um, we talked about a few of them last week. I forget which ones we had. So we talked about the Moses one, Malik Collins, to the 49ers for a seventh, Desmond Ritter for Rondale Moore, which I didn't find out to a whole day later. I guess this only makes sense to me for this reason in particular. They weren't gonna see Moore as a long term piece of their future, and I don't feel like they really used him. So he was hurt at times too. So, but to trade him for a backup QB is a little bizarre. Desmond
Mhm.
Ritter's also just not good. Sam Howell trade was interesting. I believe we already talked about this one, but that was an interesting trade. Kind of might not spell well for Keenan. Not Keenan. Now I'm already looking at the next name, but Geno
For
Smith
Gino,
rather.
yeah.
Um, Kenny Pickett in a fourth to the Eagles for pick 98 and 2/7. Um, Kenny Pickett wanted out with the whole Russ stuff and got
Yeah.
traded to another team he'll be a backup for.
Any
So
thoughts on that? I feel like he's not that he had like a huge image or anything, but like there were some people that were really like, all right, like come on, man, you're gonna act like a
guy
child
wants a
that
chance.
I guess, but like
I
you
think
haven't
it's
proven
smart.
anything in this league. Like to bitch and
I have
complain.
nothing against it.
All
I have
right,
nothing against it.
that's the
I
other side
really
of the
don't.
coin. So absolutely.
And like at this point, they clearly didn't give him like the Justin Fields treatment, trade him where he wants to. Like, of course, he's a Philly guy growing up. Like, he probably doesn't hate it, but he's going to be the backup. So
True. Yep.
you still gotta earn your way. So I didn't really have a problem with it.
Okay.
The biggest trade of the week, in everybody's minds, I feel like went to the same place, was, excuse me, picks 23 and 232, going to Minnesota from the Texans for a second and a sixth. Picks 42 and 188 and a 2025 second. JJ McCarthy trade up ammo. Do they just want to attack a couple positions? Maybe. I doubt it. We've talked about their guy, their GM, setting an aggressive mindset from the second he took over a couple years ago. Do they want to go off for number one? Like you texted me. That would be
I
pretty
thought
crazy.
so, but then Justin Fields was traded less than 24 hours after that tweet,
Yeah,
so
so
that kind of killed that
it was
momentum
it
right
was
then and there.
it was definitely feasible.
Mhm.
And we've seen reports from Daniel Jeremiah and other people that 4 quarterbacks are going in the top 6. Is this in response to the Vikings getting this ammo now and that sets that in motion, or has this kind of been a rumor under the radar in the trenches for a little while, and it's coming out with this trade? I don't know, but the Vikings are doing something. Maybe their plan was just to trade up with the Patriots, and all reports lately seem like the Patriots are not down for that,
Good.
and that's cool with me.
Yep,
If the Patriots are
absolutely.
trading down, it should be 2 to 3 picks, maybe even one if Arizona really wants someone. Um, that's it. So I like it. I think at the very worst, you're getting 2 good players. Like I like what Minnesota has done building up their defense despite losing Daniil Hunter. I think they've added some nice pieces. Um, and they need that quarterback, and they're gonna go try and get him. And it doesn't have to be at 1 or 3. It can be at 4 with Arizona. It can even be at 5. Chargers can trade back to 11, get a tackle, get whoever else they may want, get a receiver if one's still available, and then their defense we know needs help. Maybe they get a defensive player with a pick, or you flip them and they get a defensive player at 11 and get a guy like AD Mitchell from Texas at 23, Brian Thomas from LSU. You never know. They got options now. I like it. I like the aggressiveness. I don't think they really gave up a ton, to be
Really, yeah,
honest.
it didn't seem like it. Yeah,
So like, why not? I like this trade a lot for the Vikings.
I did see a wild. I can't remember who tweeted it out, but it was one of the like big football writers that had some sort of mock draft and mock trade of the Chargers dumping Justin Herbert. I think maybe to the Vikings, and they ended up taking McCarthy to get him back with Harbaugh, which would be an absolutely wild draft day trade. But I don't know if that would be one that I would do. Like I know Justin Herbert has had an up and down career so far. Um, but I don't know if I'm dealing him to bring in JJ McCarthy. I don't care what your head
No,
coach thinks of the guy potentially being the #1 overall quarterback. Like that would be absolutely insane. And I think that trade was just for like shits and giggles type of thing, but still kind of an interesting one to look at and be like, oh, if the Vikings want a quarterback that bad, that might
yeah,
be a crazy
the
one to.
Chargers are just gonna take they're gonna take JJ McCarthy, they're gonna take Junior Colson, the linebacker from Michigan, they're gonna take Blake Corum, the running back, they'll take Chris Jenkins, the D tackle,
Mhm.
and Roman Wilson and
The
Cornelius Johnson, the
Wolverines
receivers.
West out there.
And I think one of their tight ends entered as well. They'll take all Michigan players.
Mm.
No, that'd be funny. Yeah, continue.
That's all the only thought I had on it. Like I'm with you. It is an interesting trade, and like you said, it didn't really seem that the Vikings, or rather, the Vikings had to give up a whole lot for that trade. Obviously, the Texans probably didn't think there was anybody they really wanted in their first round pick. Obviously, a pretty young team to begin with, so obviously they're gonna keep building in the draft. But it it's an interesting move for the Vikings. Like you said, it does give them some ammo or more ammo now, and the possibilities for them are seemingly endless. I was really hoping it was they were going to make some sort of massive move to get up to #1 because like I texted you, all you had heard about was the Vikings are going to try to convince the Patriots to move out of 3, make that trade, which you and I are both in agreement we would not have liked at all. But then like I said, that the
Yeah,
Fields trade happened like a day later, so it's like all right, that kind of kills that unless the Bears maybe throw a curveball at you and are wowed by some sort of trade late in the
yeah,
before the draft happens and they make a move. But I don't think that's going to happen
yeah.
now.
And I've loved JJ McCarthy at 11 to the Vikings for like 3 months. He's been stapled there in my mock draft for like 3 months. So there you have that. I think JJ McCarthy is a Viking. I still
Makes a lot of sense.
do
Like
believe that. They got options. And they're building up other areas of their team, and you're gonna need that depth elsewhere if you don't get a quarterback at Kirk Cousins' level. So I like what they're doing. I like that they're getting aggressive. Um, maybe there's still that possibility they like Knicks or Penix and they want to take one of them at 23. That would be dumb, but that's also a possibility as well. Ryan,
Yes.
one of the greatest defensive players of all time, retired in the last week in
I
Aaron
saw
Donald.
that. Yep.
Talked about it after the Super Bowl a couple years ago, so this isn't entirely surprising, but I think when it came out, people were like, "Oh shit, yeah." Maybe it reminded them of that whole thing after the Super Bowl, and now he's done. Uh, Still tremendous, but his heart seemingly has been in the right place to do this for a while.
Hmm.
So I got nothing to say against him. Um, I've heard people say he had the perfect career. Maybe another championship or two would make that perfect, but pretty
Yeah.
close.
Yep.
Like,
I bet if you ask him, he
just
probably
like,
would want that Patriots Super Bowl back.
oh
Like, get a
yeah,
second
and
one
that
there
one
for sure.
stings too. Like,
Yep.
such a low scoring game, like outcoached. Um, just that, yeah, that one's tough.
That might have been
Uh,
the only time in his career he was ever kind of just like, you never really, if I remember that game correctly, like he was not a factor in that game at all. And that again gives
yeah,
a testament to how well the Patriots did and just kind of knocking him out. But
the picture
yeah,
of him next to Trent Brown before he turned into an asshole.
yeah, yep.
Um, yeah, he's only 32. He'll be 33 in May, but 10-time Pro Bowler, 8-time All Pro, Super Bowl champ, Hall of Fame All 2010s team, 3-time AP Defensive Player of the Year, 2014 AP Defensive Rookie of the Year, 2-time PFWA Defensive Player of the Year, 2014 PFWA Defensive Rookie of the Year, and what's SN? What's S Sporting? Is that
That's
Sporting News Defensive Player of the Year or something?
no idea.
Yeah, but countless other accolades. I'm just reading the football reference page.
Hmm.
An absolute monster in the interior. I think we probably know if no matter where the Rams end up, if they end up making a trade or not, they want to trade back or trade up to get aggressive to replace him. I think it might be safe to say that they're attacking the defensive tackle position in the first round
You would
now.
think, yeah.
A guy like Jerzon Newton, maybe they do it in the second round with a guy like Braden Fisk, or Byron Murphy from Texas, who's fantastic, falls to them at 19. Um, I don't know why you would take another position besides D tackle at this point. There are other areas, but I kind of wonder. After this happened, we've seen the Rams trade a lot of picks over the years. Do they feel like they can get a guy they like a little later than 19 and trade back and stockpile some picks? This is a team I'm
It
looking to
could,
potentially
yeah.
trade down now. I don't know how willing they are to. They're the LA Rams. Like, doesn't really seem like a team that's too concerned about picks, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you do want to get aggressive and maybe you move up a little bit to get that guy you want to replace such an important player. They're in an interesting spot now in the draft, but incredible player. Absolutely top 3 best player of our lifetime, maybe top 3
Oh,
best
without a
defensive player
doubt. Yeah.
ever. A ridiculous talent.
Hmm.
Um,
He's one of
Not
those
this like
guys who
big,
you
oversized, powerful guy too, but ridiculously strong and well
mhm,
built. Like didn't have amazing size for a defensive tackle, but just was an
just an
absolute,
absolute monster.
absolute
Yeah.
monster.
Yep.
Like complete game wrecker. Like when you hear the term game wrecker, you should think of Aaron Donald. Like
He's one of those guys you
incredible
look at
career.
too. Yeah, where it's like, dude, you could have played for like in great
He
shape
could have played
again.
3
Could have
more
played for
years.
yeah, 3 to 5 more years for sure. Like the guy was like you said, an absolute monster. Um, just made it look like a man playing amongst boys at times with the skill set that he had.
Yeah, unbelievable. What a career. Did it all with the Rams. Always respect for guys who stay one place their whole career. It's pretty cool to see. Um, and yeah, I mean, just you know, unfortunate for him couldn't get that Super Bowl against the Patriots. But
Yep.
let's recap some other news across the league free agency. We had a few backup quarterbacks change homes.
Yeah, things
Josh
have died
Dobbs,
down since last week for sure. We're coming
yeah,
to the end of football free
uh-huh.
agency without a doubt.
Josh Dobbs for like the 50th time. He goes to the 49ers now. Tyler Huntley stays in the division to the Browns and Mason Rudolph to the Titans. AJ Dillon back to the Packers. He'll be running tandem with Josh Jacobs. Alexander Madison goes to the Raiders. Hopefully for his sake, he can bounce back. Wonder how that backfield looks with him and Zamir White. I don't know if you saw the crazy video of Zamir White
Oh,
curling.
the
What people were saying
curling
was 200
200
pounds.
pounds. Yeah.
Wasn't 200 pounds. Like people were saying in the comments, it was 135.
Okay.
Unless that was a heavier bar, like
Still
that's
crazy though.
135. But like, hey man, like
At the speed he's doing it, like
I'm not this like form hardo, but like the whole like this, that can't be good for
I thought
you
the
when you're
same thing too.
lifting.
I'm like, you're gonna throw something out there or just
Can't
absolutely
be
rip
good for you.
something. Yeah,
It's
no. It's
very
impressive to
dangerous.
watch, and yeah, but then on the flip side of it, you're like, you are gonna hurt yourself. I have
Yeah,
to imagine.
goddamn.
Like,
That'll be a good clip, me doing that motion.
yeah,
Um, Mike Williams, like we said, won by 15 to the Jets. Marquise Brown, who will now just become nasty,
he's
probably.
gonna be a monster. Yep.
Yeah, goes to the Chiefs for
Somebody, I
one by
can't remember who it
seven.
was that I heard the other day had a good point that this is probably the first time he's playing in a pass first offense. Obviously, being a Raven at the start of his career, and then a Cardinal last year with obviously a couple of mobile quarterbacks at the helm for both those teams, like that. And now that obviously the Chiefs, Rashee Rice had a very good, up and coming year last year as a rookie. I don't know if you put Marquise Brown now as a de facto one on that team. Do we have some sort of crazy news or what?
I bet Austin Matthews will score first, and he just scored 16 seconds into the game.
There you go, free money.
Let's go. I've been taking money from ESPN Bet this year. They do the first goal scorer Wednesdays and Thursday promos where you get a bonus bet if it loses. I've won like 4 or 5 times on first goal scorer bets on Wednesday and Thursdays. Let's
Nice.
go. Unbelievable. Continue.
What was I saying? Yeah, like I said, I don't know if you see Marquise Brown as the de facto number one on that at Kansas City team, but I mean, he is definitely going to be an absolute weapon with a pass first quarterback now in Mahomes. So he's a guy to definitely watch out for. Maybe one of the better, low key better moves of the offseason by any team
Yeah, they will just make him good. They will find a way.
for sure.
Um, Curtis Samuel from the Commanders to the Bills.
This one stung.
These are two teams too that I don't think these moves necessarily put them out of contention for a first round receiver. I think they could still attack those positions, maybe second round. I like this move. I like Curtis Samuel. It sucks he goes in the division,
Yep.
but I would rather have KJ Osborne for a year than Curtis Samuel for 3.
Really?
To be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, like I don't know.
3 is a commitment, yeah,
I'm
for a
kind of
guy that's kind of
hoping
up and down, but
I'm kind of hoping your receiver you draft, hopefully early, can become really good and take on a big role next year or like next season. Obviously, not this upcoming year. Like that'd be great if they could take it this upcoming year, but hopefully you get a guy for the future. Maybe Tyquan Thornton plays good and he becomes a part of your future a little bit. And then, if you want to spend at this point, if you want to spend huge money on a receiver, you can just do it next summer.
true.
Maybe they go get Justin Jefferson or T. Higgins, and you don't really
Be
have to worry
crazy.
about it next
Yeah,
year.
that'd be crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I like Curtis Samuel, but I'm not like super pissed about this one.
Heartbroken
But
over it, yeah.
I think it'll
Like
be a
you
good
said,
fit
it's
in
just that it's
Buffalo too.
Buffalo is the one that sucks. You're like, all right, you could have gone to other places and I still could have rooted for you, but now you're with the Bills. Good fit with the Bills too. I mean, I'm with you. I think he'll work pretty well in that offense. Gives them a little bit of a different look
Mhm.
with his skill set. So a very good pickup for them.
I also think Khalil Shakir showed some stuff last year.
Yep.
I think them kind of waiting to make a free agency move a little bit until they wanted to sign Curtis Samuel shows confidence in him. So I think Khalil
Yeah.
Shakir is he's gonna not like fully break up, but like he's gonna have a pretty solid season next year.
Oh, he had moments last year where you looked at him like,
Yeah,
all right, that guy's
exactly.
like the definite number 2 on this team now with some of he was big in with the Kansas City game in the playoffs before obviously they lost that he had some of the bigger catches because Diggs I feel like was kind of, shut down in that game. So maybe either that one or, maybe one of the games before that towards the end of the season, there were a couple of games where he had, some pretty standout moments, I feel like.
Yeah, he'll be fine. Good receiver coming out of Boise State too.
Yep.
Tyron Smith, we talked about, won by 6.5 from the Cowboys to the Jets. Trent Brown, Jonah Williams, really nice deal I think for the Cardinals. Good starting right tackle. Of course, we saw them move around in the draft last year. End up with Paris Johnson Jr. at left tackle at Ohio State. Pretty good prospect. Top 10 draft pick. George Fant goes to the Seahawks. Kevin Zeitler, 1 year plug and play guy for the Lions. They lost Jonah Jackson, so they had a need at guard. John Simpson goes to the Jets. I like what the Jets have done to their line. Still another team. Don't think that takes them out of the running for one in the first round. John Simpson's a little older. Morgan Moses is like 33. I still think they should be in the market for a tackle. And Graham Glasgow sticks around with the Lions. Chase Young, who will miss some of the offseason with a neck injury he was recovering with that the Saints knew about, signs for 1 by 13. Brandon Graham, honestly didn't even know he was still in the league. Scumbag who strip sacked Tom Brady, don't like him. In the Super Bowl, sticks around with the Eagles, and DJ Wanham to the Panthers. DJ Reader, like that pickup for the Lions, good player. For their interior, Sheldon Rankins, the Bengals. Nothing else really super new. Old friend Adam Butler stuck around with the Raiders. Levante David stays with the Bucks. I think we talked about that one last week, but I'm not sure. Bobby Wagner to the Commanders. Jerome Baker to the Seahawks. Devin White to the Eagles, stays in the division. Wait, no, doesn't stay in the division. Stays in the NFC though.
Same conference.
Yeah, same conference. Denzel Perriman, who was suspended last year for 6 games. Good fit with the Texans. Really good fit. I bet they would have liked to keep him, but he's a little bit on the older side. Goes to the Chargers. They had a need at linebacker, losing Kenneth Murray plus Kaiser White in the past, and Uchenna Nwosu. So I mean, they need any help on that defense outside of the line, really. And Devin Bush goes to the Browns. Kendall Fuller to the Dolphins. Jeff Okuda to the Texans. Cam Curl. I really like Cam Curl. Goes to the Rams. Mike Edwards today went to the Bills. Jordan Fuller to the Panthers, and Nick Folk stays with the Titans. That's about it. Like you said, it's kind of quieted down. Anything else? Anything there really stand out to you?
Not really. I mean, we talked about it last week with the Texans primarily. A couple of their moves, they had, like I said, a primarily young team, get a couple of veterans. It seemed like the Lions kind of took a page out of their book this week. Zeitler's a nice pickup for their line, just for some depth there. And then you said Reader was the other one. Reader, I'm with you. That's a really good pickup for the interior of their defense that struggled at times last year. I think he'll be a nice guy to plug in the middle, and again, just a veteran presence for that young team will be good to have.
Yeah, no doubt. Sorry, just a quick text here.
No worries.
That's about it for football, right?
Yeah, nothing else. Not scouring Twitter. Nothing really else has happened, or any kind of news is breaking or anything like that. So unless something else happens, I think we are good to go with hockey.
Good stuff. Bruins and some other stuff. They've won 5 of the last 6. It's pretty good, huh? Turning things around. So. Still a little chaotic, namely one game. But they got it done in Montreal. Go to the Bell Center, win 2-1 in overtime. Linus Ullmark only faces 19 shots, stops 18 of them. They outshot him 24-19. Can't really go 0 for 4 on the power play on the road, even against a bad team. Don't love that. But Heinen scores one on his way down to the ground, falling down. Nick Suzuki evens it up, and DeBrusk wins it in overtime. Nice, DeBrusk overtime winner we've seen in the past. I don't really have much else. The game was kind of low event, a little low energy at times. So I don't really have a lot to add on that game.
Fair enough.
Philly, though. Philly was not low event. Philly comes to town. Bruins win 6-5. 40th win of the season. Jeremy Swayman, stats didn't look great, but I wasn't super bummed with his performance. I don't think a ton of blame should go his way. Of course, you have to put some when you're in a battle like this. Bruins outshoot him 30-29, killed all 3 Philly power plays, but the first Farabee goal came right after the time was expiring, so almost a power play goal allowed. Didn't love the turnover by Pasta on the eventual Paling one-timer. McAvoy can't close the gap on the wall, gets through. Paling scores on a one-timer. Swayman makes a big stop on Konechny. DeBrusk makes a nice play, cuts to the middle. In the belly of the beast, 3 guys around him, gets a little shove, takes the hit, makes the pass, and Geekie just absolutely hammers one home. Morgan Geekie at $2 million a year, it's just getting better and better.
Absolute steal.
He is money.
Yep.
He is money. You got to give Don Sweeney and crew some credit for identifying guys like him.
He's this year's Zaka. Yeah.
Yep. Even veteran guys like JVR, slowed down, but they found that plug and play guy. Kevin Shattenkirk had 3 assists last night. Hampus Lindholm, obviously a lot of teams were in on him, but they made a push for him. I think that was a smart play. Even in a year at times, he was getting swamped by huge minutes. We saw that happen this year in a different scenario. Why is there one other I feel like I'm missing? Jesper Boquist, look how he's been. That's another one. I'm sure there's a couple others I'm not thinking. Maybe Andrew Peake can be one of those guys. We'll see. He's had some
Hasn't
moments.
been bad so far, yeah.
he's also had some moments.
Yeah.
You know, kind of what we expected, I think.
Mhm.
Joel Farabee tips one home with a power play. This is the one that happened right after. Or wait, was this the one that actually I thought I fixed this in the outline. One of his, yeah, I forgot to fix this. This was right at the conclusion of the power play. This is one thing, like Lindholm had a pretty good game, but like get your stick on him a little quicker there. Needs to get a stick on Farabee there. Zaka loses the draw on the Coyle goal, but gets down and gets the puck. A little lazy by the Flyers faceoff man. Gets to Marchand, finds Coyle back door. Clinical work from that line. Not the typical line, but you know, they were out there on the ice together. Great cycling by Lindholm and Pasta on the Coyle goal. Second Coyle goal was sick. He'll occasionally pull out those soft hands, just sneak one under the bar, one of those soft little dainty shots. But that was pretty sweet. Nice cross slot pass from Andrew Peak to Johnny Beecher. That's 2 goals in 37 seconds. But that wasn't all in this game. Great keep in by Lindholm and DeBrusque. We see a little vintage DeBrusque, nice move around the net. Undresses Felix Sandstrom. This like Peak has had a couple turnovers in the defensive zone I haven't loved, but he plays physical. He's not like afraid to get hit either. He takes hits well, but yeah, a couple turnovers here and there since he started, but overall he's been pretty solid. I think this was his worst moment. Pretty much passed it right to Nick Delorier. Just gifted him his first goal of the year, a guy who just never scores. That was tough. Swayman was thrown off because I'm sure he didn't expect his defenseman to pass it to a fourth liner on the other
Yeah, I
team.
can't imagine that's something going through your mind.
No,
Like,
no, no. Not great. This wasn't great either in a different way. Jeremy Swayman gets put on the highlight reel by Morgan Frost. That through the legs goal was just effortless for Morgan Frost. Not a great look. But you know, that's one of those things like what can you do? Like
mhm.
those are pretty tough to stop, especially with how infrequently they happen. So I loved the defensive effort on the Heinen goal. Geeky and Frederick are both trying to get in front of that shot. I couldn't even tell which one of them blocked it, but Heinen gets a good jump once he finds that block, sitting above the slot, takes it, puts on the Jets, and scores. Huge one. Joel Farabee scores late on a wraparound. Didn't matter. Thankfully, you had that Heinen goal. I was at Sam Walker's in Woburn for this game, and there was a guy next to me complaining about the Bruins. And after every goal, I'm like, yeah, I know they're begging to lose. They're begging to lose. Like, I get it. Because I do. I was like, it wasn't just him saying it. I was like, they're begging to lose, man. I'm telling you, they
Mhm.
love doing this. But they didn't. Thank God. Made some good money on that game too. So that's always a
There you
bonus.
go.
Um, Ottawa last night. This was even against a bad team. This is an effort I've been waiting to see. The Penguins game was really good. Bad team. This one had a little extra gear to it for me. Linus Olmark makes 30 saves on 32 shots. Looked pretty damn good last night. Shots of 31 to 26 Senators. Didn't matter. Dominated them with a dot, 67.2%, and we're 2 for 2 on the power play. Turnovers could have been better. Turned the puck over 15 times, as opposed to, or they call it giveaways in the NHL site. So if you want to nitpick, 15 giveaways. Ottawa only had 9. Coyle was 81.3% on the dot. That's just superhuman.
Pretty good.
Um, Pretty damn good. Pasta can't quite get the natural hat trick, but he gets 42 on the season on a tip from Grizzly and 43 on a breakaway. Great stretch pass across the zone from Zaka to Grizzly and 42. Zaka's been hot lately. And give Tim Stutzla primary assist on that terrible turnover to Pasta, which he turned into that breakaway that he buried. 5, 6, and 11 in 8 games, in his last 8 games for Zaka. Had that one game at the start of the month, no points. Ever since every game in March, he has a point, and he's got a number 2 star of the week in the NHL on his resume for the month. Shane Pinto scores in the power play. Didn't have any problems on this goal, just a good goal. Justin Brazeau has really found a role as that big MF in front of the net. That's all he needs to be.
Mhm.
And he does. Makes pay dirt on the rebound. Scored later with some great hands. That little pivot, like turnaround move. We've seen Bergeron do that. We've seen Pasta do that. We've seen Coyle, JVR, guys like DeBrusque, guys that score goals do that. What a story Justin Brazeau has been. He gets 2 here. Carlo gets a little high, leaving Lindholm defend for himself on the Kachuk goal. A little bit chaotic there. Pasta's third goal just shouldn't have gone in. Yunus Corpusalo, I've said it on Twitter so many times.
The
That
wicked
signing made no
backhander.
sense. I
Yeah.
signed him for 5 years. For 5 years.
That
He's not
goalie's not very
good.
good. Yeah.
He's like a
Watching that game
300.
last night, a
He had
couple
like
of you
a
like, wow.
almost 300 or three, not 300, 3 goals against average going into his career as a Senator. You don't give guys like that 5 years.
No.
It never made sense. He's not good. And neither is the team. I'll give him the benefit of the
Oh,
doubt a
that's
little bit.
why they gave it to him then.
Oh
Fits the
God,
mold.
like so bizarre. Really, really bizarre. He grabs the bear pelt that McGurl threw on the ice as his hat, wears it in the photo afterwards. Didn't have 3 pucks. I guess they couldn't get all the pucks. He just had one that said hat trick on it. Takes the picture. Passes Cam Neely for 7th most all time. 345 goals total now. And his hat trick, his 17th, puts him 9 away from Phil Esposito with plenty of time, hopefully, to go in his career. I think he'll hit it. Like,
Probably, yeah. Good shape to
God,
do
like
so.
he really is just so good. What a treat he is to watch. It's not over yet. A stretch pass across the neutral zone ends up to Jesper Boquist from Johnny Beecher. So that was pretty cool. The fourth line looked really good last night. Corrals it from behind too, so I had to kind of reach for it. Impressive play, buries it. We talked about Brazil's goal, nice little pivot move. And Kevin Shattenkirk, I was a little worried about 2 right shot defensemen on the third pair. I think typically when you have a guy in their off wing, I like the lefty-lefty combo more than the righty-righty combo. Maybe that's just me. Kevin Shattenkirk playing his offside at 3 assists last night for a guy that's kind of had some rough games over the past few months and been in the lineup a little bit lately. Good case. Maybe Shattenkirk and peak can work. Didn't expect to ever say that, but here we are. You caught the Ottawa game, I figure, from how we were talking about it here.
I did, and I'm glad I didn't half jokingly, half serious do what I texted you I was gonna do
Yeah,
with
come
that
on,
like
dude.
2-second goal that Ottawa scored, where I texted you again, half jokingly, half serious. So it's like, at what point do I bet the Ottawa money line when the Bruins? Because I mean, this was obviously coming after the the Flyers game, where like you said, they have these moments where you're like, all right, here we go again. You're not going to be able to close out this game. But again, like you said, bad team against Ottawa, but still there were some good takeaways from this game. They get off to a hot start, as you said. You come right out of the gate, score 2 goals on 4 shots, whatever it was. A little bit of a lull in the middle of that, but Olmark's been fantastic. It's almost like the trade deadline kind of rejuvenated him a little bit, which has been kind of crazy to see. And then after that goal that happens again with whatever it was, 2 seconds or whatever, the Bruins just come out and blow doors in the third period. It almost was like they had a sense of like, all right, like we're not going to let this game get away again. We're hopefully going to turn the page and turn the corner on some of these late game collapses and just, miscues late in games. So that was really good to see. And then, like you said, I'm right there with you watching the fourth line. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time, glazing over the fourth line or anything, but Brazo, as you said, has been a great find. I didn't know anything about the player. Definitely didn't know, he had the offensive ability that he seems to have, which has been a nice fit on that fourth line. So they've been good. And again, like Ottawa, not the greatest team on the planet, but you do take some pretty big positives away from this game. Mainly the one, like I just said, coming out in that third period and basically just being like, all right, we're going to take it, take them to town here. Finish business and not let a game that we definitely know we should have get away in any sense.
Yeah, and this fourth line, is guys all playing with a chip on their shoulder. Beecher's played pretty
Absolutely.
good overall since he got called back up. Boquist was in the minors for a bit. Doesn't have any intentions of going back down by the way he's been playing. It's actually funny. My buddy Ryan Berry in the Twitter chat said Pat Maroon 0 points since we've acquired him, Zach Ronaldo. So that ties into the fourth line.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, talk about the 15 and 14 Celtics. We'll talk some Celtics notes after Bruins, if we have any here. I don't want to interrupt the Bruins talk
Mm-hmm.
if he's still in here. Didn't want to interrupt the flow there. Those comments came in a little while ago. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. I feel like overall this Bruins season we've kind of seen eye to eye pretty well. So nothing really to complain about right now. I mean, they won 5 of their last 6. So all is pretty good, despite the one loss where they lost to a very inferior team by a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of putting that one in the rearview mirror a little bit, given the sample size we've gotten lately. A big test coming tomorrow night. The Rangers come to town. One of the best teams since the All-Star break. They're 45-20-4. I think Alex Weinberg and Jack Roslovic have fit pretty well since being acquired at the deadline. Good forward depth for them. Artemi Panarin, one of the top scorers in the league, will come to town with his first place Rangers. 94 points in 69 games for him. He's approaching 40 goals. You got Philly, another Metro team. You're going out there, though. On the 23rd, Travis Konechny leading them and scoring 58 in 63. In the news this week, they scratched Sean Couturier the other night, who they named captain 34 days prior, I think it was. Just hasn't been playing good recently. You look at that game log, not up to captainly standards, and we know how cutthroat John Tortorella can be. His media availability, man, like I've always liked listening to Tort's post game, but this year it's just been fascinating. His answers have been so funny. He just has no time. He still gave me the reporter that did the whole Kevin Hayes thing when Carter Gauthier got traded, no time a day, hasn't answered a question since, which is, he's running that into the ground, but reasonably so. He was very, no, I wouldn't say it's getting old, but running into the ground, like he just keeps doing it.
Gotcha.
He could have just like let it slide, but that's not how Torts operates. He was clearly very offended by what the guy did and pissed off. So, if you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. I appreciate the commitment to this because it was a very shitty thing to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially as a BC fan and Massachusetts guy and someone that was, very saddened to find out when Jimmy passed. So, in connection to, of course, it being about Kevin Hayes. So, I think that's part of the reason, with Torts, he didn't like it as well because everything Kevin's been through in his family. They get a little break. I feel like they've been playing every other night for so long. They get off until the 26th, but then they get it back to back while they're in Florida. They get Florida and Tampa Bay. They get a little Florida gauntlet here. I feel like they do this like once a year. They might have already done it earlier in the season, but I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I definitely remember this happening in the past, though. Maybe not this season. Florida, paced by a contract year, Sam Reinhart approaching 50 goals for the first time in his career, 79 points in 68 games. They've won 7 of the last 10. They're hot. This is a great team. Very legitimate playoff contender. Tampa Bay, they got to keep winning because that wild card race with Washington and Detroit in particular is getting tight. So, if Philly drops out, they start losing some games, they're going to be in that wild card contention as well. They've also won 7 of the last 10 in 4 straight. And Nikita Kucherov has like an ungodly amount of points in his last 3 games. Like, I think at least like 14 points in his last 3 games. Like, he's playing out of his tree. And they're doing this without Mikhail Sergachev. Like, I don't think that's getting talked about enough. Mikhail Sergachev has been out for like a month now. Like,
the Lightning, they always find a way. Like,
they always do. I haven't really watched them a lot lately, so I don't know how guys like Anthony Duclair and Matt Dumba are doing there. But yeah, it's working. Whatever they're doing is working in Tampa. How are you looking at this week coming up? Because I think I talked about us being on the same page pretty much. I think we should be on the same page here too. This is a pretty tough week ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna. It's weird.
An easy one last week.
Yeah, so, that's a good point too. It's the complete opposite of what. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Like, I was just thinking about it because obviously I knew you were going to ask me this question. You always do when we get towards the end of the hockey segment here with these games coming up. And it's crazy to kind of, the way I'm thinking of this is a team that's been in first place most of the year, and the Bruins, as they have been. It's weird to me that this is kind of like a show me what you're made of stretch. Like, obviously these are really good teams down the stretch. The Bruins, as we've seen this season, tend to, get up for these games. And, the problem they've had is playing down to their competition. But like you said, really tough stretch coming up. I don't know if it's just, with how we know this Bruins team kind of operates down the stretch when we get to this point in time in the year and, playoff specifically type of thing. I don't know. Like, it's a good, like you said, it's a good barometer. I think it's crazy, again, like I said, to say show me what you're made of type of stretch because they've been so good and so consistent for most of the year. But it really is. Like, these are all really tough teams coming up, teams that are probably going to be there down the stretch. Maybe you're going to see one of these or a couple of these teams, depending on how far you get in the playoffs. So again, good barometer game is coming up, and again, can't say enough. Show me what you're made of. Like, I'm not going to say put up or shut up because the Bruins have been good, like I said, all season. But definitely, tough coming up.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's gonna be a gauntlet week, no doubt. The Bruins made a bit of news today, a little minor news. They signed goalie Mikey DiPietro, who they got along with Jonathan Myrenberg in that Jack Stanika trade last year, former third rounder in 2018 goalie. It's had a pretty solid year in the minors. So I don't know if this is just securing some depth, or is this a guy, if you trade Omar, is going to compete with Bussy for that backup spot next year. I don't know. We'll see. But they keep Mikey DiPietro around. Are we both on the same page on this one, Ryan? That Linus Olmark should be the game one starter with the way he's been playing right now.
Yep. Which is
Yeah.
crazy because I feel like if you asked us 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, you would have said Jeremy Swayman's probably the game one starter going into the playoffs. But again, I think the trade deadline really did light a fire under Allmark. Yeah, I think you said it last week's show. The fact that they were able to stick with him and keep him around here, obviously, it seems like it energized the team a little bit, and I think it's definitely energized him. So again, we may differ on what direction they should go in the goaltending department. I think you've kind of said though this offseason is when you make the move. So maybe we're both kind of coming around to one goal is going to have to be here moving forward. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I have said it long enough. I don't agree with the potentially platooning in the playoffs again. I think, whoever your hotter goalie is going in, that's who you ride. Because I just don't think the platoon works in the playoffs. Especially like if Omar, pitches a shutout game one, whatever, you're really going to go to Swayman the next night. So like that whole thing kind of bugs me. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Omar's played great. He definitely is the guy I'm baseball season right around the corner, started today, given the ball to, for lack of a better term, game one of the postseason.
Yeah. I don't know how you can't right now. And Swayman's had a little bit of a
Couple of
rougher go
hiccups here
lately.
and there, yeah.
Omar's are pretty damn solid. Maybe playing with a chip on his shoulder, kind of like DeBrusque. DeBrusque doesn't have to worry about the trades anymore. Allmark is staying here. He forced his hand to stay here, and now he's fired up. Pat Maroon. We imagine Pat Maroon will play in the playoffs, but he's still recovering from back surgery. If he's available, right now, who do you sub out in the playoffs? I would go 194 Yakulaka.
Yeah, it's that one comes down. I mean, your whole fourth line is made up of guys too that don't have a ton of playoff, if any, playoff experience. But like Lauko's, I feel like the youngest out of all of them. Maybe I might be wrong there.
Nah, not the youngest. Beecher right now.
Okay,
Beecher and Brazeau. I think Lauko might be. Actually, Brazeau might be older than Lauko. But
okay.
I don't think you can take Brazeau out with the way he's
No,
playing right now.
but the
at the
point I
same
was going to bring,
time,
like veteran Maroon.
do you want two slower guys on your fourth line?
True. Like
It's an interesting discussion, and there's still a chance. That condition on that draft pick, they only get it. Minnesota, that 2026 6th-round pick, if Maroon plays a game. So that told you from the start that they weren't sure that he's even going to play.
True. Yep.
So I don't know. Like coming off back surgery, like we haven't had like a super okay, he's like a week out. Maybe
really
Maroon like in a first round
anything.
series plays like a game or two, and that's what you got him for. You get him you get your shit pushed like 4-1, and then Maroon subs in for Lauko, fucks with whoever he needs to on the other team, and that's worth it. Maybe he scores a shitty rebound goal. Like I don't know. Maybe he gets in a fight.
Yeah, that was gonna be my thought.
I'm
he might be
more with
depending
time.
on
More
matchup.
just been matchup and if you need him. Like they weren't getting him to be a guy, like a permanent fixture. They were doing it for the locker room and for that oomph if they need it. So
the
I don't know.
people
Right
that
now,
were
it'd be Lauko.
still mad about that trade was just I can't get over how funny that was. Some of the reactions to him coming in here. Like you would have thought they gave up a first round draft pick and their top prospect for the guy. Like with some of the people that were outraged.
Yeah, it's so stupid. Like the guy won 3 cups. Who gives a shit? Like even if he doesn't play a game, you have a guy that won 3 cups in the fucking locker room. And
The premise, the one thing I will say is the premise of trading solely for a locker room guy is a little weird. Again, for the people that don't really deep dive into the sport. Really?
I disagree.
Something about I don't know, like something again.
It
comes down to you didn't give up anything for him, so right then and there, the argument should die whether the trade was worth it or not. Like you gave nothing up. But like I said, I'm sure there are some people out there that are just like it's a little weird might be the wrong word, but like I don't know. I feel like a lot of sports you don't tend to see trades solely for locker room guys, but in hockey it would be the one that I feel like probably makes the most sense with how grueling the season is, and we know what type of how things ramp up when the playoffs start. And like you mentioned, the guy's won 3 cups, so that's as valuable gets right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. Matt Dolph had a good point from the Sports Hub today. Small sample size, but since joining the Bruins on March 14th, among defensemen with at least 40 minutes of ice time in that span, Andrew Peeke is 7th in block shot attempts allowed per 60 minutes at 31.2, 12th in shots against per 60 at 22.1, and 11th in block shots per 60 at 7.98. He was a +2. He had 2 penalty minutes last night. He had 2 hits and 2 blocks. Pretty consistent. So I just noticed that after the game last night. I like him. Like I said, he's made some mistakes, but like he wasn't this perfect angel, defenseman when he came in. So
he's been as advertised. Like I
yeah,
think
like
you did
he's
a good
fine.
job last week or 2 weeks ago. Whenever we recapped it, my brain's just not working at this point at the end of the show. But you basically said what you just said now. Like the guy's not a stud by any means, but he's a guy that is not going to go out there and like decimate you and cost you games. I feel like so he's kind of been a mix
Yeah.
of both, and that's what he is.
And he can be injury insurance now. What if you lose 2 defensemen? Do you want to call Alec Regula, who hasn't played a game with this team, up?
No.
Do you want to call up Dan Renouf, like Michael Callahan? No, you
Mhm.
don't. You certainly don't.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it too. Like I don't want to dump on the guy, but like playoffs are around the corner. Like, do we think Matt Grzelcyk's going to make it through a playoff series? Probably not with how we've seen in the past. Like, so to have a guy that's got his feet under him a little bit here going into the playoffs, like that's not the worst thing in the planet.
Yeah, no doubt. Like he'll be fine. Physical style, maybe he does well in the playoffs too.
For sure. Yep.
Big guy. The Coyotes will probably stay in Arizona next season, even if they don't win their land auction in June. Um, Deputy Commissioner Bill Dilly did not specify a deadline, but said it's getting late. I feel like we've heard that for a while, but this is just the never-ending saga with the Arizona Coyotes. So we'll see what happens. I think June is the next benchmark for them. And just some quick thoughts on these potential rule changes in the NHL. Interesting ones. I'm gonna try and find this right here.
I will precipice it, whatever the word is. Again,
Preface.
brains. Thank you. Um, I didn't know this was a thing. So any rule changes you are bringing up to me, this is the first time I'm seeing it. So
All right, good. I was kind of hoping you didn't read it so I could
no,
get
did
your
not.
blind reaction.
Okay.
Um, so there was a consensus among GMs that should be made in addition to expanding coach challenges for puck over glass, delayed game penalties, and minor penalties for high sticking. Under the current rules, a 4-minute high sticking penalty is reviewed by officials and can be rescinded if a player was cut by the puck or by a teammate's stick. But the suggested change would be to allow coaches to now challenge a minor for high sticking and have it rescinded if it was the result of an errant puck to the face or a friendly fire high stick. Any thoughts? I feel like this is a pretty reasonable one.
Yeah, as long as the review doesn't take like 10 minutes to try to
40 minutes, yeah.
figure out, like if you can get it done quickly, absolutely. But that's kind of the one problem all these review things raises when they come up is like if it takes 5 minutes to review something like this, then it's not worth it. But if you can get it done quick, yeah, I don't have a problem with it at all.
So the interesting thing with this, and I believe another potential rule change, is if it's unsuccessful, you get an additional penalty now if this is added. So
Okay.
if you get the delay of game penalty and then you lose the challenge, you're 5-on-3. You're down 2. So that's some stakes,
That's
which I kind of
interesting.
like.
Yeah.
Hey, it makes these calculated, makes these decisions a little more calculated.
Mm-hmm.
The situation room will automatically review calls in these infractions. Let's see, what's the other one? GMs are hoping to add stipulations to some of the rules, like in the case of Rule 64.a, parentheses IV, which currently only takes into account when the net is inadvertently knocked off by a skater. The proposal is to have goaltenders included in the stipulation that there should be a face-off in the defensive zone, with the defending team unable to change lines and the attacking team choosing which dot the face-off is dropped at for inadvertently knocking the net off its pegs, whereas before they were not included. So you can just choose where the face-off is if the net is knocked off.
That's
By the
crazy that
goalie.
goalies didn't factor into that beforehand. Like,
Mm.
I know it's mainly players knocking it off, but like, there's been times before where goalie kind of
Yeah,
makes a weird move and knocks it off himself. That's interesting, but
right.
that's another one where like I don't have any sort of problem with that. That makes a decent amount of sense there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in the same boat. After seeing the net dislodged by goaltenders 102 times last season, changes to the pegs have
What
resulted
I
in
mean,
that only
like,
happening 17 times this season. So a big difference.
that's a
That's
huge
literally
drop
one
off.
sixth.
Yeah,
That's 1/6. Good mental math
there
on
you
here.
go.
Making it more discernible as to when a goaltender or any player is doing it intentionally. Another tweak proposed regarding goaltenders would be allowing them to warm up exclusively when they're replacing a goaltender that's being pulled from the game by one of the league's appointed concussion spotters. This one's a no-brainer. Like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you be able to warm up? Like,
Mhm.
this wasn't a thing before?
Yeah, you can warm up a pitcher if they come in on an injury.
I
Like
think this has
that's
been a thing
yeah.
before. That's what I was a little confused on this one. That was kind of bizarre.
Mhm.
But in front of their nets, the GMs are proposing a change regarding defensive zone faceoffs following an icing. As it stands, if the defending center cheats on the faceoff, he's warned, while the offensive center found to be cheating gets thrown out. The proposal is now to have the offensive player also warned rather than to be thrown out to cut down the delays in dropping the puck.
Perfect.
Makes a ton of sense.
This is one of the ones I can't stand. Just drop the effing puck when we have stuff like this happen. Like,
awesome
it's
rule
maddening
change.
too. Again, playoffs are around the corner. It seems like these type of things ramp up in the playoffs. Like, just drop the effing puck. Like,
It depends on the guy too. I'm not going to say I know which guys do this the most, but it has to depend on the guys, right? Not all of them do this,
yeah,
or as frequently as others.
you would think, yeah.
It would be a great change. Regarding faceoffs and where they are located on plays blown dead, because neither team wants to play the puck after a hand pass or after the puck is knocked down with a high stick. The proposal is to move them to a more advantageous position for the non-offending team, meaning if an attacking team commits a hand pass in the O zone and there's a stalemate on playing the puck that leads to a whistle, the faceoff would move into the neutral zone so as not to reward the offending team and punish the other team by continuing to hold the faceoff closest to where the infraction occurred. Another one. I
No
like
brainer.
it.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
like it. Like this is good stuff. The last proposal regarding faceoffs we have be to have them in the offensive zone when a goaltender removes his mask and causes a whistle, regardless of where the puck is when the goaltender removes his mask. The attacking team would also be able to choose which side of the ice they want the draw to be on, and the defending team would not be permitted to make a line change. Another one. I like it. Like, what's the downside here?
Mhm.
So you
That
don't like
one,
you're really gonna nitpick like picking which side in the neutral
yeah,
zone
exactly.
face off? Like, I'm
Mhm.
not.
The only one that doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it makes sense. Don't get me wrong, but like the wording of it's just weird to me because it comes off like a goalie just willingly removes his mask left and right during a game. Like I
Yeah.
feel like it only happens when like a puck kind of knocks it off or like dislodges it a little bit. So that one,
Mhm.
again, wording's a little weird, but I get the gist of what it's going for
Yeah.
and it makes sense.
Yeah, there was clarification provided by the hockey ops members of the NHL Situation Room in terms of what constitutes possession and control of the puck on offsides, and no changes are being proposed on that front. Also, the idea of eliminating a team's ability to regroup behind the center ice red line after crossing it with the puck on 3-on-3 overtime, which was tabled at the November meetings, didn't gain any traction at these ones and won't be brought forth to the competition committee.
That's an interesting
This is
one.
the one I do not like. I do
Really?
not.
I get where it's coming from, but I can see where problems arise.
I do not like the constant circling back past the red line. I
Hmm.
hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It was cool at first because it was new. Like people are figuring it out. They're developing strategies. Now we've done this for a while. If you need to do this super often still,
4 or
your
5
team probably
times in a row.
sucks
Yeah. Like,
or you're shitheads. Like figure it out. I think there's got to be some way to regulate that, and I am open to the idea of that happening because it drives me crazy sometimes, even when the Bruins do it.
change the rule where you can only move forward at all times. You can't go backwards at all. It's
Or like you
just
can only
straight
go
on.
past the red line like a certain amount of time. So like
Yeah.
I don't know,
Put
like
a limit on it for sure.
some sort of limit. One thing that doesn't have to go further process is the enforcement of rules that prohibit players on the bench from putting their legs into play while not on the ice. Players dangling limbs over the boards in anticipation of a line change will be warned. They will be penalized if they don't comply with the warning. A linesman being cut by a skate in a recent game made the NHL's vice president director of officiating Stephen Walcom broached the subject with general managers this week to remind them this will be sternly enforced moving forward. Makes sense. Anything else here? Change. Yeah, that's it. So, a couple rule
What is
changes,
that
or
last
one of
one?
the
What
couple.
enforce like? Is there a reason why? I don't even really know what I'm asking here.
I'll read
Like,
the next couple paragraphs. Yeah, I'll look at see if there's any more clarification there. Let's see, where is this? The
I'm
linesman
just
cut by a skate one.
yeah.
Yeah, linesman cut by a skate in a recent NHL game made them broach the subject when general managers um,
Like, what are they changing?
remind
They
them
don't.
that they'll be sternly enforced going forward. Now that you mention it, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. What is going to be enforced? Like,
Is that in connection to the whole like players dangling their legs and limbs?
oh,
Yeah, it
maybe.
has.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
okay.
It
It's the
is.
second
Okay, I
part of
didn't
that. I
realize that
got you
either.
now. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
yeah, we're good. Okay, I'm
all
glad you
right.
mentioned that because
That
that's
confused
actually
the
a good
hell out
point.
of me because I was going to joke, like, all right, we're going to just put guys on rollerblades now and just not even have skates
That's
anymore. But
partially on
yeah,
me because
that's
I read the both paragraphs
no
back to
worries.
back.
Yeah.
But that's it. I think all things are pretty cool, but I really do want the red line.
Yeah,
Going past the
that's one
red
that
line all
needs
the
to.
time. It's all these teams. I feel like it's the younger guys too. I don't want to
Yeah.
shit on all the younger guys, but I feel like it's more so them that do it.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it's just guys trying
like
to
the
get
Trevor
crafty and
Zegrases, the Cole Caulfields,
yeah.
Quinn Hughes, Luke Hughes, any of the Hughes brothers, like guys like that. I don't mean to throw all these U.S. development program alums, all guys that are
But
friends. Maybe it's these guys. Maybe
I
they
was just
skill it
gonna
up
say
too
that
much.
it's you're putting a lot of connecting a lot of
Hey,
dots
hey,
here. Yeah.
tinfoil, you're catching on the
Yeah.
TikTok tomorrow. Yeah, that's about it. We can touch on some Celtic stuff for Barry here, if he's still in the chat. I don't really have anything new to add on the
Oh,
Celtics.
that's what I mean. Like, it's so tough to talk about the Celtics because, like, I know we do Bruins game recaps here, but like,
Celtic
the Bruins
basketball
have
game
more
will be a
stuff to
little more
talk about.
boring.
Yeah, the
Like,
Bruins stuff have like they have games obviously where they fall apart or late or like have some things where you're
and
like,
the
all right, you need to
Celtics,
figure
like
that out. The Celtics are just coming out here and
game
beating the
recaps
crap
would
out of
make,
everybody.
yeah, exactly. When they would be more interesting when you occasionally have like the Celtics blew a 15-point lead
Yeah.
and lost the game or lost in overtime. This is what happened. Like,
Mhm.
this is why you should be concerned. There's been like none of that this
No,
year.
I mean they're turning into a well-oiled machine at this point. Like Jalen, I mean the things you could talk, and I don't want to make it like seem like all we're gonna. The only thing we talk about with the Celtics is when something like super negative or drastic happens, because obviously like it's been we talked about it before when we talked about Celtics. It's been a fun season to watch. There's no doubt about that. Um, the only thing really I think you really could like mention is again playoffs times come around. How many of these bench guys do you really want, need to rely on? But like the bench is starting to come into form. It seems like Pritchard's playing phenomenal of late with the more and more minutes he's getting. He just drained a three. I think he's got 13 or 15 points in the first half. He's been very, very good. Sam Hauser, before he got hurt, hit what, 10 threes the other night or something ridiculous. So he's starting to become a guy you can rely a little bit more on. Cornette's just been
Yeah,
just an enjoyment from his
he's the
vibes
best.
alone. But I mean, he's had games where he's stepped up great when you needed him to, when guys like Porzingis or Horford are out. Brown's who's got the ball right now, and I don't know how if you're watching or not. Brown's been the story of the second half. Anybody who has watched this team has seen that for a while now. It's like we talked about Olmark with the trade deadline, pumping him up. It seemed like the All-Star break and the dunk contest has really, pumped Jaylen Brown up and, brought his season back up because he's been sensational, since the
Is
second half of the year
is
started.
there a case that Jalen Brown has been a top three player in the NBA since the All-Star break?
I don't think you could argue against it. That guy's coming out and averaging like I don't know what the number
Like
is, but
25
he's
points a game at least.
more than that. I think he's had
More
a
than
stretch
that,
now
yeah.
where he's toppled 30, maybe like 6 of the last 7 games or something ridiculous. I saw a tweet, I can't remember what it was.
And he plays
But just
awesome
the
defense still.
yeah, he's been one of the best defenders in the league too this year. And I think he has said that, he's wanted to step up his his defensive prowess, play harder on that end. Not that he, hadn't in the past. But that's been something that he's improved on this season. Again, he's been great. The one thing I will say about tonight's game is kind of just watching it as I've been, looking at the TV here in the background. I have come to the realization that for the Milwaukee Bucks, I would like Giannis to retire just so I don't have to watch his stupid ass brother anymore. Every shot, like I said, I've been watching. You know how much I can't stand Thanasis,
I was wondering
because
where that was going.
he's the definition of a ride your coattails
Dude,
cheerleader. You know this.
he
He sucks too.
sucks.
He's the worst
He's
player in the
so
NBA.
bad.
And again, he is the only reason he's in the NBA is because Giannis is in the NBA. And if he
Doesn't
wasn't,
he have
no,
another brother?
he does, and that kid is, I
He's
think, a
out of the league, isn't
G
he?
leaguer basically. But he's not as annoying as Thanasis is. Like again, Thanasis is only there. Every shot the Bucks, they're down like 20, I think, right now, and every shot Milwaukee's hit, he's like jumping off the bench, like almost walking onto the court, hyping guys up. I won't deny, great teammate. You want that in a guy that doesn't play unless you're down like 50 points or half your team's hurt. But I just anytime I watch the Bucks, man, I can't stand him. He is so effing annoying. Like. So that's why, like I said, Giannis needs to retire because as soon as he does, the next move the Milwaukee Bucks are making is cutting Thanasis' ass in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
And that's my soapbox. Didn't think we were getting that tonight. Thanasis and
no.
Antetokounmpo rants. Like,
Well, Barry, if you're still here, you got what you
yep,
wanted.
you got that. Yeah,
I think we explained it pretty eloquently. The Celtics,
get the balls.
they're They're the balls. They're
Yep.
fucking awesome. So,
Hmm.
just a tremendously enjoyable team to watch. I've enjoyed seeing a little bit of Jaden Springer too
Yeah, he's been
lately.
good. Him and Tillman have been very, again, I don't want to like make it seem like these bench guys are the second coming here, but I mean, again, good finds by Brad Stevens. Like they fit the roles they've been put into. Um, like most of these Celtics players have, like even Sviva Hyluk, who I don't really like because I feel like anytime I've watched him play, or at least earlier in the year, all he does is come in and just, miss shots, but he's been good down the stretch too. He's starting to hit some threes, filling in for Hauser a little bit. So that's a guy that's maybe getting some more confidence. Again,
Yeah,
you're
speaking of
probably not going to
Hauser,
rely on him in the playoffs, but like still
the
good to
freaking
see.
game he goes off against the Wizards, whatever, he gets hurt. Like, come on,
That's what
that's
I
not
mean. Yeah,
fair.
that's the
That's not
one
fair.
kind of negative of the last couple of games is the guy has a chance to break the record and ends up screwing up his ankle.
Oh,
So
if you've been to a Celtics game this year, when they quiz each other on like whatever, they'll do like Tatum versus O'Shea Brissett last game. It's like name where your teammates and coaches went to college. I nailed those.
do you?
Nailed those. My unbeaten streak all time at Celtics games is undefeated still. I have never been to a Celtics loss in my life.
Mhm.
It's unbelievable. I don't get it. I just have good luck.
Some sort of
Um,
luck.
yeah, but the Celtics are awesome.
Mhm.
There you go, Barry. Just for
The
you, just
Celtics
for
are
any
at the point
Celtics
where
fan.
it's like, and I think I said this maybe the last time we talked about the Celtics, or I definitely maybe said it about the Bruins, but it's like, can we just get to the playoffs already? Like they even seem like it's not like they're taking nights off here or any means. Maybe if people aren't watching the Celtics games, um, but they kind of have this vibe to them where it's like it's all business right now. Let's just come out, let's dominate everybody. Can we just get to the playoffs already? Like
Yeah.
let's see what obviously happens then. Obviously they are the foregone favorites at this point. But they've gotten to a point again where it looks like they're just toying with teams out there. And again, they
Mhm.
haven't played, really a ton of hard competition. Like even the Bucks tonight don't have Giannis. But still have Damian Lillard who's played really well. He's starting to figure things out. Doc has figured some things out for the Bucks since taking over as their coach. But again, it's like the Celtics have this aura around them right now of like, let's just end this regular season. It's been basically a joke for us all year. We're getting to the playoffs and kind of take care of business there.
Exactly. Little Celtic talk at the end
Yeah,
for the
absolutely.
people. Um, Thank you so much for listening to episode 185 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Again, still don't know when it's going to happen where I just say Sal and Cratty every time. Sometimes I'm just going to mix it in. It'll
Mhm.
just happen. You can follow us on Twitter at Mike_Cratty, at Ryan_Salvaggio, and the show at Sal and Cratty Pod. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. You can find us live and after the fact on Full Press Coverage on Twitch and YouTube. Also, you can download the free Full Press Coverage app in the App Store. We'll see you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people, all that good stuff. And we'll talk to you then. Peace out.